Clean ocean with future in sight. Well, the heading on the next speaker is Shaping a Better Maritime World. Donsö is leading the way. Well, you are going to listen to Gijsbert de Jong. He is a marine chef, executive Nordics at Bureau Veritas. Based in Copenhagen, he is responsible for the classification society's activities in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. Gijsbert joined Bureau Veritas in 2001, and he has held various technical and business development management positions in Rotterdam, Paris, and Shanghai. And with a strong focus on safety, environmental sustainability, and technology innovation, Gijsbert has his team, they are committed to support Bureau Veritas Nordic clients, building on a high level of local technical expertise and a pragmatic approach. Over the past years, Bureau Veritas has built strong business relationships with the Donsö shipping community and is fortunate to count many of the ship's owners among its clients. The forward-looking attitude of the Donsö owners, especially with regard to innovation and dealing with the challenges of climate and environmental, is well aligned with Bureau Veritas' mission of shaping a better maritime world. Please welcome Gijsbert de Jong.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks a lot for the... Hello? Yeah, it's okay. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Good afternoon. This is in fact my first Donsö shipping meet in my current role as Chief Executive for the Nordic region, and it's an enormous pleasure for me to be here. I think it should be said before we start off that the organization, which seems to be customary on Donsö, is absolutely excellent, and I think Anne-Sophie and the whole team here have to be congratulated for that, so really job well done. As Pernilla said in the introduction, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about shaping a better maritime world and what that means in the current context and how that plays out specifically here on the island of Donsö. In our view, it is about getting united. United about our future, united about ensuring that we build a sustainable future for the generations after us. And in that we can only achieve if we collaborate. And that is why we often see in Bureau Veritas the term, it's what unites us. And what unites us is to share our clients' drive to leave the ocean behind it in a better way than we actually found it. In that respect, we can say that the ocean is becoming a stakeholder of its own right. It's not anymore just about cargo owners, shipbuilders, classification societies and everybody else. But the ocean itself needs to be taken into consideration if we want a sustainable future. Therefore, as an organization, we are united in our passion because it is our people and their drive for shipping, ship technology and the maritime ecosystem that brings us forward. We are united in our mission to build stronger relationships with our customers and other stakeholders in the maritime industry to ensure that we can guide them in making the best possible choices going forward. We are also united in transformation because in order to build that sustainable future, we have to change, we have to transform, and many of the presentations you have been seeing today on this stage are all about how to get that transformation going and how we achieve those objectives. And finally, we have to be united also in our values, in the ethical approach we take, and to share our safety and sustainability targets and objectives with our customers in everything we do. Therefore, we are working with you today to ensure we can address tomorrow's challenges. Everybody talks every day about the two big capital Ds of decarbonization and digitalization. And that's for good reason, because decarbonization is an essential part of getting on that road to sustainability, which means we need to develop the alternative fuels, but also the alternative propulsion systems to get to the future. And I'm not talking about hydrogen or ammonia. I'm also talking about fuel cell technology, batteries and electricity storage on board, but also about, for example, wind-assisted propulsion with sails. We also have to develop the bunkering infrastructure and the whole logistics around getting the fuels on board of the vessels, which is a challenge in its own right. And at the same time, we should not forget about all the other challenges of the ocean as a stakeholder, to protect the air, to protect the water, to protect the marine life and the biodiversity. Underwater radiated noise is one of these new terms you will hear more and more about, because it is not just about greenhouse gas alone. In digital, we all have our smartphones. We all got used to having all these digital things in our daily life. And of course, shipping is digitizing with us. That means we have to look much more carefully than before at cybersecurity. We have to look much more at how we can enable the development of smart and autonomous ships, to apply what we call 3D classification, where we go away from old-fashioned two-dimensional drawings in approval of those drawings and then looking at the ship in a very traditional way, and moving into a system where we are much more working on models. And that means we are using 3D digital twin technology in order to look at the design review, but also to follow the ship during its lifetime, to have an actual picture of the condition of the vessel as it moves from delivery all the way to recycling. And in that perspective, you will start seeing that more and more that is being made use of remote survey and remote inspection techniques, which can help to build efficiency and bring together the technical knowledge to make things go smarter. Regardless of digitalization and decarbonization challenges, as a class society, we will always have to be with our 2 feet on the ground and make sure that the core principle of safety is guaranteed. And that means that we will keep investing in the physical safety risks, in developing the right rules and regulations for the future, to ensure that we comply with those regulations and develop best practice, that we are able to address new risks, and COVID-19 was just one of those examples of new risks coming up, and that we can enable the safe transformation in connection to those new fuels. Therefore, all the rules and regulations we develop as a class society must always be based in sound research and development programs. And that is why we invest so much in our scientific part of the company. We also have to be able to respond rapidly to the new risks, such as the risk induced by COVID-19. We have developed certification schemes to assist, for example, ferry companies and cruise line companies to handle the COVID measures on board in accordance with the World Health Organization and local guidelines, and to ensure that they can maintain compliant with those guidelines. Fortunately, today the situation is slightly better, but we are not over with this, so we have to be vigilant. And in order to enable the transformation, we are more and more developing new class notations dealing with cybersecurity, dealing with smart and autonomous technology, because the new generation of, let's say, smart vessels with high levels of automation, integration, and even autonomous functionality is just around the corner. This is not beyond 2030. This is more 2025 we are now speaking about. I would like to focus a little bit more in details on the decarbonization drivers, because decarbonization is the big challenge, not just of shipping, but of our society. The greenhouse gas emission regulation is what is often talked about also in today's keynote speech presentation. And then you have all these different bodies looking at that. The United Nations through its climate panel, the IMO, which is a part of the United Nations, mainly through the Maritime Environmental Protection Committee, the MEPC, which met last week in London. And of course, there is national and regional legislation, notably from the EU. While there is good progress being made to develop international regulation and to create also that level playing field, which is needed for society and the industry to invest, it is also fair to say that regulation is not the only driver here, and that regulation takes time to develop, if you want to get all those different countries on board. And last week, once again, showed how difficult that is. It was difficult at IMO. It was difficult in the European Union, which also delayed its decisions there for the Fit for 55 package. But it will move forward, and we will ultimately get there. One really important thing to take into consideration if we talk about greenhouse gas emission regulation is that everybody needs to understand that we have to move away from what just happens on the ship to looking at what happens from the moment we start producing the fuel all the way to the uses of the fuel on board of the ship. And that is what we call the well-to-wake approach. We have, as a shipping industry, been focused a lot on what we can influence, the tank-to-wake part. But in order to decarbonize society, the only way to do that is to consider also what happens from the well to the tank. And that holistic view is taken up more and more by shipping. It is taken up by the European Commission because the Fit for 55 is based on this principle. And one of the good outcomes of the MEPC last week is that there will be so-called life cycle assessment guidelines for new alternative fuels coming out of the IMO. So we can say that we're on the right track, but it won't work if we don't look at the overall picture from well to wake. Regulation aside, we have green financing, another important part of the decarbonization puzzle, because this is not just about having rules and regulations in place, this is also about how do we get it financed. Veritas was one of the first companies to actually get a green credit guarantee on the Fura-Vinga series. One of these steps being made forward in order to get that financing in place. The Poseidon principles have been developed by banks and are now moving also into the insurance market in order to ensure that the banks and other lenders can assess their own portfolios in terms of alignment with the climate objectives. And those things are moving forward and are going to be super important in order to bring the second pillar in place, financing. And the third one is the intangible one, corporate social responsibility and ESG. The ESG is becoming more and more important for shipping companies who want the sustainability, because sustainability is not just about greenhouse gas or the environment, but it is about also the sustainability of the business and the attractiveness of our business to keep building new talent, to get new talent into our industry, and to keep innovating. And that can only work if we jump on board and make sure we are not just talking about CSR and ESG, but actually aligning ourselves with our actions with it. We start seeing big cargo owners like Amazon and IKEA talking about commitment to zero emission shipping. And that means that this provides a third big incentive driver moving this forward. Working for a French company, alors, qu'est-ce que je fais maintenant? What am I going to do if I'm a ship owner, a shipyard or a designer? In practical terms, with those rather vague decarbonization drivers, because everything is moving, the regulations are not fixed, the financing is not always in place, and not all the structures are in place, and ESG is just developing. So how do we get there? What can I do today? And I think here is an important bridge to the Donsö shipping community. Because whereas out of Posidonia last week in Greece, we heard a lot of talk from ship owners about saying, well, this is all very important, but we don't want to be the first companies investing in new fuels and new technologies on our ships because we are not sure about how to handle all these different uncertainties. Let somebody else start. That somebody else is largely here, because in Donsö this is already happening. So the leadership of trying out these new technologies and getting it actually in place is what is happening today. And that is a mix. That is a mix of new fuels. That is a mix of new propulsion technologies, including LNG or other multi-fuel engines, batteries, all sorts of new technologies, but also energy efficiency. Bo Simonsen this morning talked about it, and I agree. It is not just a matter of changing fuel. Also, because the fuel is so expensive, the new fuel, we have to be more efficient if we want to make this affordable. So we have to keep moving forward with all the different energy efficiency optimizations we can do, as you can see in the slide. There is many things we can do. There is many things we have already done, but there is still a lot more we can do. And it is not or this or that. It is and. And that is the way forward, as we have described in our brochure. Where do we stand today? Well, a lot has already been done. You see here a couple of pictures. LNG-fueled vessels, hybrid electric wind farm support vessels, pure electric ferries and tugboats without any engines on board anymore. Hybrid tankers, just like Force, which has been named yesterday so nicely here on the island. And hybrid electric LNG-fueled cruise liners, which have even icebreaking capability. This is already happening today, and this is the type of projects we are involved in, and we are hoping to see more projects of going forward. Because sustainability and decarbonization is not just something we need to talk about, we need to start doing this. And the good news is that the next step is already in place. We are building vessels with wind-assisted propulsion. We are converting vessels to methanol and having new buildings with methanol. We are trialing fuel cells on cruise ships, trying to develop new concepts for wind-powered container ships, hydrogen-fueled dredgers, and ammonia-fueled ships. All these things need to happen in order to make the 2030 to 2050 route accessible and doable. However, it's not just about the decarbonization. This thing is not gone. The supply chain is heavily disrupted, partly as a consequence of the COVID, but also because of the geopolitical situation we will find ourselves into the world. And we still have also mundane challenges, such as fuel problems, fuel quality problems. So as a ship owner, it's not just the decarbonization. This is keeping you busy as well. So if we put that all in the context of making it happen, it will only work if we work together, if we collaborate, and if we find solutions which work for all. So a couple of key takeaways I would like to share with you are that uncertainty will probably be the only certainty going forward. The energy transition we have to go through will be uneven. Donsö is leading the way. Other areas will be following. Some sectors will be easy to decarbonize, others will be difficult. The future will be multi-fuel and it will be electric. Flexibility of fuel choice and about power systems and the adaptability to different fuels and power generation will be key to manage the transition going forward. Because as we do not know precisely what fuels will be coming in, what propulsion systems will be there, we have to design for adaptability, design for change. And that is what is happening today in many of the projects we are working on. As I mentioned before, the well-to-wake approach is crucial for the decarbonization and to achieve net zero. Automation and digitalization will drive performance and efficiency. And that efficiency was one of these big levers we had to decarbonize. So in order to decarbonize, also digital is really super important and will go forward. And it's not for nothing that Furuvinga was the first vessel which has been assigned the new smart notation of Bureau Veritas for the high level of automation and system integration on board of the vessel. In order to do the digitalization, we have to become more serious and more aware of cybersecurity, and that will be the next stage in smart shipping. First movers and innovators, Bo Serup said it as well, need to be rewarded, because otherwise it makes no sense to be investing and to be a first mover. And that is where regulation, incentives, but also the ESG part comes into place. And finally, cross-industry collaboration involving all the different maritime stakeholders is the only way we can make this happen and we can succeed. In order to close the presentation, just two examples of how Donsö is actually leading the way towards a better sustainable future. Furuvinga series is one of the interesting vessels which are coming out of the shipyards already for a few years, but keep innovating. Having all these different systems on board, the dual fuel, the high level of integration, all the different elements in place, very low EEDI, shore connection, and the smart ship connection, which are all there in place already today. And the same can be said for the new Island Tern Force series, which we had yesterday, the baptism of the christening of the Tern Force. Shore power connection, hybrid electric approach with batteries, which allows zero emission levels at port. This is the first step into going truly zero emission in the actual operation of the vessel. And future designs will be building on this concept going forward. So again, in order to decarbonize, we have to cooperate, and definitely the Donsö community is not maybe, as in the slogan of Veritas, a giant, but definitely a leading community in driving the change of shipping in the right direction. And we are really pleased to be working with the local community, with all the ship owners, the suppliers and the designers in order to help make that happen. So on behalf of myself and the entire Bureau Veritas team, we are having the booth just opposite here. Please come and visit us, talk about all these challenges you are facing, and we're happy to discuss with you and to assist you wherever we can. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. I think that you did the very good summary with your takes away, so I won't give you any questions. I just want to say thank you. And you said making it happen together.
Absolutely.
And Bureau Veritas does that because you are a gold sponsor to Donsö Shipping Meet this year. Thank you so much for that. Young.
Thank you so much. We have them. And to finalize, we will play the short video.
Pardon?
And to finalize, we can play the short video.
Yes, of course.
Thank you
we
so
do
much.
that.
Yeah.
We share your drive to leave the maritime world in a better place than we found it. It's what unites us.
Our passion for the oceans and our desire to not just protect our seas, but to shape a better maritime world for future generations.
At Bureau Veritas, we understand the challenges you face in designing, building, and operating a truly sustainable maritime business.
We are by your side to help navigate the energy transition, supporting you with practical advice, tools, and technology for you to make the right decisions to run a safe, sustainable, and high-performing business.
We're known for being responsive and building strong and long relationships with our clients, for being flexible without compromise.
And because we're a world leader in testing, inspection, and certification services, we have a truly global outlook, bringing a broader understanding of the global supply chain and blue economy.
Pioneering the safety and performance of new technologies since 1828, we are one of the world's leading ship classification societies and offshore safety and verification bodies,
with a global network to support you worldwide.
So whether we're meeting the challenge of decommissioning offshore oil and gas assets safely and sustainably,
helping ship owners embrace decarbonization and digitalization to transport goods safely and sustainably,
or supporting marine renewable energy technologies, Bureau Veritas Marine and Offshore is shaping a better maritime world.